Hello and welcome to this tutorial. I hope to use a few minutes of your time to introduce you to the StudyLab Lesson Studio and also to demonstrate how to use the studio to create a lesson. That will be this lesson here. I'm going to create another lesson and then I will connect it to the previous one and make a sequence, and then we'll send it to a class. So my job here is to try and craft a lesson called Introduction to Differentiation, just the way you see it here in StudyLab's Lesson Studio. One of the great things about electronic resources is that you can always keep updating it. And so once you have something new to add, just update. If you have something to correct, just edit. And now you may want to do something else in another subject like biology or economics and whatever, but the principles will remain the same. So let's get started. First of all, I have extracted all of this text into a Word document. I do expect that you would be able to write yours. I am just using this PDF material for the purposes of this demonstration. But you would generally start with having organized your entire material in Microsoft Word or your favorite document editor. So here I have the introductory text, okay, with the headings and subheadings. And then, just like this too, I have a quiz, all right? There's a question, a problem with its answer and with its solution, and another with its answer and its solution, and then there is a small practice quiz, all right? And then we get into a second lesson that has a little bit more with images and all. So, in the same way, I have organized my notes here with the micro quiz. We call it micro quizzes because they're just short quizzes that help you help the student to ingest the materials that have been presented before. So I have my quizzes here with the feedback too, and then I've also added a YouTube video, okay, that I would like the students to be able to watch. And then we have the second lesson and with the continuing text. So let's get started. So I'm in StudyLab and I have gone to the lesson library. I'm in lesson library where you'd see all of the lessons that have been published either locally or publicly. So I'm going to get started by creating a new lesson. I'm going to call it Introduction to Differentiation, all right? But I'll just put functions for a start. Oh, great. What's the description of this lesson? This is an introductory lesson to differentiation. Great. It's targeted at SS1 students and it follows the NERDC standard. All right. So the first thing we're going to do based on our sequence is to add the content that has, that starts the whole thing. So I have the content here. I will just copy it. I'll select text content and I'm going to paste it. Beautiful. Now you can see that there are some interesting looking syntax here, like this and like this. This helps us to write mathematical formula and equations. And to be able to understand how to do that, you click on Add Formula and it takes you to the document on the internet that helps us to add mathematical formula into StudyLab's Lesson Studio. I'll do a separate introduction to writing equations on StudyLab. But perhaps by the time you may be watching this, we may have already introduced the equation editor, the visual equation editor, and so you might not need this again. But in the interim, if you wanted to write equations on StudyLab, you need to write it in the format of JQueMath. Let me just go ahead and copy one of these and show you how it renders. So I'll come all the way down here and I'll paste it in to show you that this is the way it's going to render in StudyLab based on this schema here. All right, so the next thing in this lesson sequence is a quiz. It's a micro quiz with 2 problems. I had already added the questions to the bank, and so I'll just go ahead and add them to the quiz, sorry, to the lesson. So select assessment. I'll hit add questions. I'll hit add questions. That takes me into the bank. And I can see that the questions I just added are already here. They happen to be this and this. So I'll add them to this quiz. I'll click done. And then I'll click finish. And just like that, boom, a little micro quiz is added to the lesson. Let's go ahead and see how all this looks to the student. So I'll save as a draft. It prompts me to connect this to a curriculum. So I'm going to say, okay, it's mathematics under the topic of differentiation. All right, because it's mathematics, it asks me for its specific subtopic, which I would call it first principles, because we're going to go into first principles here. Okay, and then I will say save. Fantastic. Now let's hit publish. I'm not ready to publish it yet, but I want to just preview it. So it opens in the preview mode and I'm able to see the text that I put in. You can also see that the equation editor has rendered the equation properly and my quiz also appears. It's just 2 questions, but I can see it appears. So let's exit the preview. All right then. Next, I think that what comes next is now some more practice, okay? Some more practice. So I need to have this text here that says more practice, and then I will insert another question for this. So let's delete this first, and then just add text content that says simply more practice. Let's make that bold. Let's centralize it. And then after that, we would add an assessment content type, and then select the question that will be part of that assessment. Okay, so that's it there. I'm done. I mean, I could add more, but for this purpose, I'll just have one, and then I will finish it. Finally, I'm going to add, based on my lesson sequence or my lesson content, I have a YouTube video which I want to insert so that the students can watch. So we would have this video content, and then I would click on the video content to add the YouTube link, and I'll submit it. Now, I had also wanted the students to do a little bit more reading, by themselves, just to be able to, flow with something new, something extra for those who want to add a little bit more. So let's have a document in there. It's going to be a short PDF that allows students to consult a little bit more. So I have this PDF here that talks about extracting functions from word problems. Just a little text. I have just about 6 pages. Okay, so my PDF has loaded, and now I could preview again and see exactly how it's going to show to the students. So I have my introduction, my quiz, some more practice, a video, and then finally a PDF document that it can go from next to next to next. Fantastic. So I'll exit, and now I can publish to the public library so that my students and other teachers can have access to it. Created this second lesson, the gradient of a curve. And as you can see, it's here, Introduction to Differentiation 2, the gradient of a curve. I have added all of the text and the images that are part of the entire lesson. All right, and now let's take a look at this particular equation. Let's see how it's going to render here. Great. So it renders here. So sometimes you might need to always check that your equations and your expressions render well here, so that they can render well too on the app. Fantastic. So I'm done with this, and now I'm going to connect it to the first lesson we created. So I will click on publish. I will come here, it says connect to previous lesson. So I hit connect, and there I have it, Introduction to Differentiation Functions. Done. Okay. And in the same way, I'm going to publish it to the public domain and save. Great. So exit. And there it is. There is my lesson.